2022 March Cheesesteak Madness, the Delco Region second round action in the judges bracket. Johnny Paisano's versus Doc's Deli, live from Ship Bottom Brewing in Swarthmore.
So the first bite, there was just a flavor in it, not a bad flavor, not a normal cheesesteak flavor. I probably need to dive in a little more to figure out exactly what it is, but it's good. It was pleasant, not an unpleasant flavor. It was very pleasant.
No, I agree. It has that homemade cheesesteak flavor when you're trying to get like the garlic, onion, pepper powder mix right.
Cheesesteak number 3 up to a good spot. Sounds like.
Doc's Deli. Sometime I'll tell you how I almost single-handedly won the last annual Thanksgiving Day football game between Swarthmore High School and Lansdowne Olden.
First cheesesteak of the day. The roll is scooped.
It's probably, like you said, it's the best roll of all of them. The sturdiest.
Yeah, but at the same point in time, I think that it was the driest steak of the four. And definitely the onions were the least cooked. It took away from the steak instead of adding to it. But in this cheesesteak number 3, for the first time ever, I feel like the mushrooms actually added something to a cheesesteak. It's really hard for me to say that, but I think I talked about it before. Just the meatiness and the flavor. Maybe because of the seasoning they used. Maybe the mushrooms soaked some of that in, but I feel like the mushrooms brought something to this cheesesteak. Definitely, it's yeah.
I think if you're counting, the rolls were about the same. Roll 3 was probably a little better. Roll 4 was a nice sturdy roll. But again, the meat had a good flavor, and the mushrooms and onions worked in that, so yeah, everything had a good melt. 4 was a little dry, but I feel like that's something that's not permanent, and maybe it was just a one-time thing.
Appearance-wise, number 4 had the best appearance.
Yeah.
When you talk classic cheesesteak appearance, but 3, you open it up, and you were like, "What's going on?" It was impressive. The meat was falling out of the roll. I mean, it looks like it was exploding out of the sandwich, and you could see the onions. Like, I didn't want to wait for you to take a picture. I was like, when do we get to eat a piece of the steak? Because I want to try it right now. I wanted to grab it from the paper.
Jim,
It's 3. 3. It's 3.
Yeah, it's 3. And I will say that definitely the meat had the best flavor. The seasoning, I think we've all tried to figure out what it is, and we would never know, and I doubt they would ever tell us. But it definitely added something.
They might have dropped it on the floor.
The only negative I think I mentioned with 3 was I thought maybe I got a corner of the grill, maybe like one corner of my meat. I got a piece from the last steak, but I think it didn't take away from it. It was just it was almost another flavor.
A little crunchy flavor.
Yeah, I mean, if you use quality meat, instead of it being a piece of gristle that winds up in the sandwich, it ends up being like a nice piece of like almost crispy meat that really like, added something. And so when you really come down to it, appearance is great, roll's great. It came down to the flavor, just the flavor of the seasoning, combined with the onions in the steak number 3. Hey, if you had a definition, in the dictionary, and they had the picture there, and it said Philadelphia cheesesteak, number 4 definitely would be the picture that they put on the plate. And I think, number 3 is the one where you open up that steak at home and it's still hot, and maybe let's say they use like a wax paper, and you break it open. That's where you're gonna get that like, oh, I don't know, it looks soupy. It looks kind of soupy, right until you touch it, and the roll still was dry on the outside. It was still firm. Neither of them dripped, but even for how moist number 3 was, there was no real drip to it. There wasn't any fat rolling out of it, but still juicy.
Yeah, I agree. It's like with the 4th, like sometimes you get that donut at Dunkin' Donuts, or it's got like the cream, like the cream filled donut, where you see the cream sticking out, and you're like, oh great, and you bite into it, and there's like nothing in it. Like 3 or before was not the opposite of that. Like it didn't look like there was a lot of meat. Then you saw the roll was scooped, and it was just all meat in there. A lot of meat. The only problem was it wasn't seasoned, or the cheese didn't get through it enough to beat 3. It was dry.
Yeah, I think I said it before too. Number 4, I just wanted to say definitely for this steak, if you're gonna put onions on a steak, either do a nice big chop and so that they add texture to the steak, or cook them well enough so they caramelize a little and bring some flavor. Like eating steak number 4, I really barely could tell if there was onions even in it. But yet you open and look at it, onions everywhere. So I want to know how they made onions not have any taste. That's it's almost hard to do. But it could be the onions. I understand it could be an old onion. It's been sitting out. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. But yeah.
This is good top level. This is Chef 2.